There are millions of ants in here. But just know that you're not doing anything wrong because it's happening to pretty much everyone. And we've got some good looking onions in there actually. I'm gonna move these out and then put another piece of the weed fabric down here. Hi guys, welcome back to the homestead. Today we're gonna do a garden tour. We're gonna check out the animals and just walk around the homestead. And I'm gonna also have to deal with some ants in my front yard. They've been a problem, a big problem, and we're gonna deal with it today. So before we start the garden tour, let's deal with these ants because I wanna get rid of them right now. And I have two things that I'm gonna put on these ants to make sure we get rid of them because they are ruining my front yard. All right, so here I have some diatomaceous earth. Got my gloves on and I'm gonna fill this little container. Okay, so I've got that. And the second thing, cinnamon, and I'll show you how we apply it. So if you look closely right here, I'm gonna try and get real close for you. You can see that there is an ant colony here. Yesterday I came by and it was so full of ants. They were going all up on here, and there are millions of ants in here. First, I'm gonna sprinkle on some cinnamon. Cinnamon is really good for getting rid of ants. There are a lot of people who swear by the cinnamon trick. So we're gonna do a good dousing of cinnamon. Okay, so now that we have the cinnamon, I'm gonna go in with the diatomaceous earth. It's kind of windy today. It's kind of blowing it around, but that's okay. Just like that. Come back in a few days and check. We'll see how this works. So let's discuss why cinnamon works so well for killing ants. And it's very simple actually. The ants will inhale the cinnamon and it kind of suffocates them and therefore ends up killing them, which is great for me because they're kind of taking over my front yard. And I'm also noticing some in my main garden. So I'm gonna go over there and do the exact same thing, sprinkle the cinnamon and a little bit of the diatomaceous earth because the diatomaceous earth also will basically dehydrate them. So it's a really good combination and it works well. So I'm gonna go do that now and we'll finish the garden tour as well. Here is my container potato plants and onions. I went ahead and also sprinkled some diatomaceous earth on all of my plants because I'm seeing a little bit of the roly-polies and just a few other things. Now the pest pressure isn't very high right now because it's just the beginning of summer here, but just a few little things here and there, and I'd rather do this now to prevent any problems from getting well established here. So container potatoes, container onions, they're doing so well. They're really fattening up. Another container of potatoes here. Beautiful catnip. That just adds so much beauty to my front garden here. Their potato under this catnip that's flowered out. So another potato here. This one's in a smaller container. My second container of onions. They're also really doing so well, fattening up, looking amazing. Some of them are kind of tilting over, but it's okay. I'm just kind of letting them do their thing. I'm fertilizing once a week and watering very frequently. So should have a nice harvest of onions here. This is just one of my lemons that I had inside for the winter. Brought it out, got a bit of shock, but we do have a lone lemon here. And I have an actual lemon from the tree, but I'm just letting it, okay, it just broke off in my hand. So I have this lemon here and I could just leave it on the counter, let it get a little more ripe before I cut into it. Peppermint, just diatomaceous earth on there. Another container of potatoes, looking lush and beautiful. Here I have some turnips. I just planted 2 turnips in there, and this was actually planted last year and it overwintered and somehow they came back. So They're cold loving plants, so I can see why. These were all of my little runt onions, and I'm using them pretty much for green onions now. I just stuck them all in this pot here, and whenever I want some green onions, I pick from there. And then I have 2 small cucumbers that my mom brought over. I just potted them up, and they're just gonna sit in this and grow. All right, let's go check out the main garden up front, and we'll also check out the pumpkin patch so you can see the progress of the pumpkins. They're looking awesome. Here is the very front of our front yard, and you can see the street starts there. But right here we have a row of Mammoth Sunflowers. And we like to put them right here because it really provides a lot of privacy throughout the summer because they get really, really big. And we always have great success with our Mammoth Sunflowers. They always get at least 15 feet. And so it's gonna be really nice. The lone surviving fruit tree from our old homestead. And this is a pear. And it's trucking along, no pears on it yet. But at least it's alive, which is good because we did lose the other like 5 fruit trees that we brought over. Got a weed whack around that garden. One of the things they don't tell you about owning a homestead is how much weed whacking and just landscaping you have to do all the time. Look at how much better it looks now that it's been weed whacked. Literally night and day here. So much better. Okay, let's go in there and take a look at how everything's coming along. Okay, so I'm really focusing on sprinkling the diatomaceous earth on the ground. I am doing a bit on the leaves of some of the plants, but mostly I'm focusing on the actual soil because that's where the bugs are going to crawl from the soil and walk up the plant. And so I'm sprinkling all of that, and then I'm going to put some of the cinnamon as well because we also do have some ants in here, so I'm going to put that as well. Alright, that should take care of all of the ants, including some of the walking and crawling insects that I think have been getting a little bit of my leaves. So let's get back to this tour. Okay, so let's start on the very right side of my garden, and this is where I have all of my ground cherries. So obviously I've got some cinnamon and diatomaceous earth on them right now. But this patch of ground cherries is doing absolutely amazing. I grew these from seeds from a ground cherry that I purchased at the grocery store. And I've saved about 50 seeds or so and dried them out and then planted them here. So they've been doing so good. They're absolutely thriving in this garden patch. I have a couple of them that I'm keeping in some little pots as well. Right beside the ground cherries is my small little strawberry patch that I'm gonna allow to go and grow into this area here, and then I'm just gonna try and keep it in this one spot here. So we did have a few little strawberries off of this bad boy here. There's a tiny little strawberry there. But I've been doing so much amending to this garden space. They'll do a lot better next year. Right beside that, I have my red amaranth. They are thriving as well. Out of all of my veggies, I think the ground cherries and the amaranth have been doing the best. They're growing at a really, really good rate, and they look super healthy. So I have one row of that. Here I direct seeded some brassicas. So I did some cauliflower and some broccoli seeds that I direct seeded here. And you can see, so it's been probably just over a week and a half or so, probably close to 2 weeks. And I have some really good germination here. I want them to grow through the summer and into the fall. Hopefully we don't get any bolting in the summer. I also have some here. So I did 3 cauliflowers. So there's one here, 2, and 1 down there. And then I did a full row of the broccoli because we eat more broccoli than cauliflower. And I only grow what I eat here on the farm. I don't grow any vegetables that we're not gonna eat. So here I also direct seeded some of my beets, and you can see these little seedlings have come up and they're all doing really well. I did a full row of beets here. And then on this side of the garden, I have my eggplants, tomatoes, and peppers. So here's one of the tomatoes. I'm growing Prudence Purple and also a beefsteak tomato as well. So I have just a few. And again, it's been cold at night for mostly everyone. A lot of people this year are thinking it's their soil or something's wrong with their garden. It's just colder than usual, and so everything is off to a slower start this year. This is a pepper that my mom actually brought over for me. It's a Baron, that's what it's called, the Baron. She brought me over these 2, and then this one tomato here. An eggplant, another eggplant. I direct seeded a few eggplant seeds just in here as well, and they're just starting to come up. So I have at least some succession sowing so that when these ones are just on their tail end, we'll have some more that are gonna produce for us. Some more of the tomatoes. Another couple peppers up here. We have 2 more peppers and then another pepper down there. Some more tomatoes, lots of tomatoes. And that pretty much concludes this side of the garden patch. And then we're gonna head down the hill and I'll show you what we have there. Actually, we have a few more things. My basil that I planted from seed, so amazing. Guys, the smell is just whew, to die for. It's doing so well. I also picked up a few of these and put them in another pot, gave some to my friends and family, and theirs are thriving. I also have some dill here. It's doing so good. I'm loving it. Also from seed as well. Every single thing I grew in the garden this year is from seed. I didn't purchase anything except the 2 peppers and the 2 tomatoes there that my mom purchased for me. But everything else I direct seeded or started from seed in late spring this year. So I didn't go to the garden center or anything and purchase anything. These are all grown 100% by me. I wanted to briefly touch on the topic of slow growth rate this year. I noticed a lot of my friends, family, and some other people that I follow as well, they're also complaining that their gardens are not doing as well as they initially thought or as well as it's done in the past. And it's not really because of soil or contamination or because you're doing anything wrong. I've noticed that people pretty much around a large area of space, like people in the UK are also complaining about this, people in Canada, people in the US are complaining about the same issue, that this year the garden has just not been as prolific as it normally is. And I really just think that some years it's just a resting stage. You just can't speed up the growth no matter what you do. I am over fertilizing and over watering a lot so that I can get some speedy growth out of most of my vegetables, and I have noticed that they are reacting really well to that. But it's an overall problem with just cooler temperatures this spring in general, and that I think is the main reason why the garden isn't thriving as much as it normally would be. And that goes for pretty much everyone around the globe right now, especially if you have fluctuating temperatures during the day and night. Even if it warms up significantly in the day, if it drops down really, really low at night, your plants will feel that, and sometimes their growth will get stunted. And I do believe that that is the main reason why mostly everyone is complaining about slow growth rate this year. But just know that you're not doing anything wrong because it's happening to pretty much everyone. So just keep at it, and we'll harvest what we can, and what doesn't work, doesn't work. It happens. Some years things are going absolutely perfect, and other years things are just a little slower. And I think that's just one of these years. Okay, so we know that half the garden, or at least part of the garden, is down the hill. So let's go down there and check out what the orchard looks like, what my pumpkin patch looks like, and the onions and the garlic that I have growing down here as well. Oh Lord, I just totally slipped. All right, so here we are at the pumpkin patch I created. Don't mind the grass in between the weed fabric. We just weed whacked this entire area, so there's weeds blowing all over the place and grass. But let's just pay attention to these beautiful pumpkins, shall we? They have been thriving down here. I have been watering them, and I fertilize them quite a bit. So my next step with this is to move my little pieces of wood here that I'm just keeping to contain it, because it is on a slight slope. So I'm containing all of my soil and everything. I'm gonna move these out and then put another piece of the weed fabric down here. And then I'm gonna train these guys to follow this downward path. So once they start vining out more, I'll be able to train them so that they vine where I want them to. This is one of the smaller pawpaws that we had. These ones we planted in 2020 when we first moved into the new homestead. We moved July 1st, 2020. So this is our second full year. And we planted these pawpaws when they were just tiny little guys, and they've grown so beautifully. Their leaves are absolutely gorgeous. And they're not a pawpaw, it's a pawpaw. So it's a North American fruit that's very tropical tasting. There's another one here as well. And the third small one, look at this leaf. It's bigger than my hand. Absolutely amazing. These little trees are just loving it in this orchard here. Also, all of these trees may look like nothing, but all of them are actually mulberries. I'll show you this one here. So you can see how loaded this tree is with mulberries here. And the mulberries are native to this area, especially on my property here. We seem to have they just reseed themselves because they keep falling on the ground, and they reseed and they're just all over this property. So we love our mulberries though. We didn't even have to plant these, and they were just part of the landscape. So right here we have our Reliance peach tree. We did have a few peaches on here. I'm hoping they'll survive, but we do have a few peaches on here. One there, one here, and a couple in the back as well. So we have a few peaches on here, but we'll see how it does. Again, the cold nights, fruit trees don't like that too much. And last night was unusually chilly. Absolutely unseasonably cold. Here is the Stella cherry, and it suffered a lot last year. It just didn't seem to thrive at all. We thought it was gonna die, but it's not dead. Thank goodness. And it's putting out some new growth. Eventually, once this grows a bit more, we'll just trim off the dead branches and the dead pieces. The next tree that's doing really well is this pear tree. I would have liked to see a bit more growth on it though, but it's still okay. These trees take a few years to get well established. So, you know, probably by next year, all of my fruit trees should be well established and they should start fruiting. Okay, so let's take a look at my blueberry patch. We're also gonna plant our raspberries that we purchased. They're still in containers, but we're gonna plant them here and continue them down this way so that we have the blueberries and the raspberries in the same area. You can see we have some berries on here. My blueberry patch is always pretty prolific as long as we keep them covered. so the birds don't get them before we do. Right next to my blueberries, I have a black currant tree that is just absolutely killing it right now. So I just took out a whole bunch of weeds from the blueberry patch here. The weeds have been coming in like absolute wildfire this year. Let's check out the onions and the garlic in my in-ground garden where I planted the rest of the onions and the garlic earlier this spring. So let's see how they're doing. And these are the elephant garlic. And then here are the onions. You can see they're starting to put out their little bulbs now. They're actually bulbing up. I need to water these guys today. I was hoping we would get more rain yesterday, but that didn't happen. Them being on some good looking onions in there. They are kind of tilting over a little bit, and I went in there a few days ago and did some heavy weeding. They got knocked around a little bit, but they'll perk right back up. So right here, the second patch of pawpaws, we have 4 pawpaws here. And these are the bigger ones that we got from our garden center near us. And they are really loving it here. They're partially shaded here. They get partial sun. In the wild, the pawpaws would actually naturally grow in like the undercover of other bigger trees. So I think they really like it if it's in partial sun, because that just imitates their natural habitat. Pawpaws are actually native to North America and pretty much southern Ontario, which is exactly where we are, and the eastern United States. So if you live anywhere in those areas, you can definitely grow pawpaws. And I'm hoping we can get some fruit off these rather soon. Alright guys, well that concludes the garden tour for today. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share the video on social media. It really helps me out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay peaceful. Bye!